Oh, there we go. All right.
Good evening, everybody. Well, we are appropriately doing a dark and grainy update tonight because we just saw a very dark and grainy and frankly incomprehensible movie.
Well, it's not that it's incomprehensible. It's that there's no movie.
Yeah, there's no that which
it's
adds to its incomprehensibility.
well,
Yes.
why was it made? All right, come in frame a little more.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
It's I was genuinely hoping for a grindhouse slaughterfest aboard a late 19th century ship. What we got was none of that.
So we're talking about last voyage of the Demeter,
Which might be one of the worst movies of the year.
definitely one of the worst we've seen so far this year. So the premise is it's taken from a chapter in Dracula.
And let me stop him right there.
Yeah.
What he said, he's not misspeaking.
No.
What he literally means that they made a film out of a chapter
In Dracula.
and this proved why you don't do dumb shit like that.
It's the chapter where Dracula is on a ship heading for London. But if you've seen any of the other Dracula movies, and if you've read the book, you know that Dracula is going with a purpose to London. But in this movie, that's never explained. All we get, okay, you know what? Just to summarize it, it's a bunch of archetypes on a boat who then
Die.
They
And
get
I'm sorry,
slaughtered
but
one by one.
Obviously, we all know what the outcome of this movie is, right? Because, well, the rest of the novel happens.
Well,
right?
that's the strange thing. So the director is a Norwegian, Andre Horvedal, who gained some indie popularity back in 2013 or 2010, actually, when he made Blair Witch. Blair Witch influence, one of those found footage movies that were so popular at the time, called Troll Hunter. And that got him some prominence, and he did another interesting horror film named The Autopsy of Jane Doe. And then about 4 years ago, he did Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, produced by Guillermo del Toro. And he's always had an interesting visual eye, which is not present here, because this is a very murky movie where you can't see anything, even Dracula, which is fine because Dracula is reduced to just a demented, screeching, giant bat.
Well, let me put it this way. If anyone's seen Family Guy, there's a character called Opie, and he sounds like, what? That's literally what Dracula sounds like. I mean, it's such a shame because, like, the idea of setting films on boats, especially, old-timey vessels, is always extremely interesting. I mean, look at films like, Master and Commander, and it's like, oh man, we might not get,
the Bounty,
Commander, but or the Terror, but something interesting, right? If you're confined on a ship with this creature, right? You think, let's go crazy, let's use every part of the ship. No, literally none of that happens.
It's none of the characters are interesting. You don't care about what happens to any of them.
They don't bring anything unique to the table to help bring the monster down.
No rules are established. There's a female character from Romania who claims that Dracula has decimated her village,
but has no knowledge on how to do anything.
Also, no one asks her anything about the monster, even after it starts eating the crew.
No, here's the thing. They're obsessed that she's on board when they first discover her, right?
Yeah.
But then when she's actually doing things and people can talk to her, like, no one does. She's almost an apparition.
Yeah.
She just stands there and not a single person thinks to ask, where did you come from? Who are you?
Well,
what's this creature? Nothing.
They're all there as food for the Dracula beast.
And the kills aren't even good.
Oh, they're shot so terribly you can't see anything that happens in the movie. Now, of course, part of you doesn't care because the kills are done so lazily. It's all reduced to this giant bat ripping out your neck in a very murky shot over and over and over. And yeah, it's sad because the director has essentially entrapped himself, because there's no other way for the movie to end anyway, because everyone knows, if you know the story, that Dracula's supposed to make it to London anyway, and this ship is supposed to crash ashore with the whole crew decimated. I mean, you can still tell an interesting story out of that. The 3 minutes Werner Herzog devotes to it in his Nosferatu remake are infinitely better than all 2 hours in this movie. So go check that one out. Or even Coppola's operatic Bram Stoker's Dracula from the 90s. Those are much better experiences than this movie.
Just wander around a ship, argue sometimes. There's a ridiculous scene where a character dies.
I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
I mean, there's so many, because like even if you know the outcome, what makes these kinds of like prequels / story set in between universes is you either tell something that's so far removed it doesn't impact the story, or you find ways to mess up the characters so much that even though you know how the story will continue, you don't know what the characters will do because they're so disturbed. They have these new traumas.
Well, there's no character buildup in this movie, right? Nothing is really said about any of these people. Nothing is explained about why Dracula is on the boat, or what his goals are. Well, its goals, because it's just a big old bat in the movie. So you don't care about the fate of anybody. You don't feel invested in any of the characters. We talked when we walked out of the movie. We immediately talked about how the music score is just one
it's awful.
Pounding dirge that contributes nothing to the story.
In our episode on Barbenheimer, we said Nolan overdid it with his music mix at points. This does that, except the music sucks so bad.
And for the whole movie.
And it's a shame because it's composed by Bear McCreary, who's done some very good TV work. He scored the music for the God of War, the 2 recent God of War video games, which are absolutely fantastic. But this was just so bad.
Well, the VFX team here, what they do pales in comparison to the best recent video games. I think a historical fiction, Benny says, I think a historical fiction about the real Count Dracula is badly needed. His real life and the geopolitics surrounding it are absolutely fascinating.
About. It's insane to
me. Totally agree.
That nobody has read Bram Stoker's Dracula. I mispronounced his name, I'm sure.
Bram Stoker, yeah.
Thank you. Everyone adapts Dracula based on the cultural osmosis. Adapting a story set in the world of the book would be so fascinating. That's what makes the book interesting.
No, absolutely.
Which Coppola did,
and Murnau and Herzog, but I think Benny is talking about the real Count Vlad, the Impaler, which would actually make for a fascinating movie, way more interesting than this one, because it would be about more than just a hairless giant bat screeching.
Well, he looked like a ball sack that grew wings.
Absolutely.
And it had sharp teeth.
It's such a bad movie. I have nothing else to say.
I was expecting such a bad movie. Even some creative stuff with the ship, and they squander that.
Yeah,
the final battle, everyone sucks. They don't know how to do anything else. It's just such a... And it was so boring.
Oh, yes.
It was so boring.
It's long, tedious moments of really empty conversation, punctuated by the screeching.
This is what I was telling Elsie. Like, the Meg 2... Like, we walked out, we had fun because we brought fun, we saw together.
Well, the third act got wacky. The third act got appropriately wild in Meg 2.
But the thing we were complaining is it should have 100% just been a full B movie, which it didn't. It needed more silliness. This is the opposite. This tried to be a serious... Let me put it this way. The Meg 2 was a silly movie that ended up failing because it tried to add in more serious elements.
Well, too much. It overthought what it wanted to do.
And then this movie sucked because it was trying to be a serious movie that included these like wacky moments. Just like you know what I told Elsie? I said Ben Wheatley should have directed this movie and let Ben Wheatley free.
This was just such a dreary movie that drags. It's the definition of a depressing viewing experience. You walk out exhausted, and I said this when we left. You walk out exhausted, but in the wrong way, where you're tired out by just how dreary.
You're just kind of sad. You're like, oh man.
Yeah, and I mean, even there are so many deaths in this movie where you don't care and the stakes are not high enough for them. And when someone turns out to be a vampire and a sunrise sets them aflame and they turn into a big old lump of coal, my immediate thought was, please tell me this just means we're closer to the end of the movie because this is so bad.
Well, speaking of the end of the movie, it tries to set up like an actual Van Helsing.
Oh, yeah. I'm so tired, and I'm sure you are too, of all these movies trying so hard to imitate the Marvel formula. Okay, this movie was bad from the get-go, but I didn't think it was going to go there. And it does.
It's so ridiculous.
It does at the end. It splashes you in the face with this, like, by the way, this could be a franchise.
Please, God, no. Like, look, no. It really is it's just so bad. Like, just go this weekend. I know you guys have all probably seen Barbie twice, Oppenheimer at least once. Go support Ninja Turtles instead.
Go see that. That's a much better time.
Super fun movie. It's just great. It's actually great.
Much better film. The animation is superb. The energy of that movie is wonderful.
Great characters, fun jokes.
Treat yourself to green mutant slushy, icy, at the theater.
Oh. Well, and just like that, there seems to be some commotion outside. So I think that's our cue to wrap it up. But anyway,
we're grabbing some dinner.
What a slog!
LA,
absolute dog water.
Anyway, we gotta go now.
We gotta go.
Yeah. Have a great one, everybody.
It's time to wrap up. Take care, everyone. Till next time. Bye-bye.